All right, so this is the last piece of information you're going to learn before the test, which is in a couple of days. So if you want to, you can actually watch this making of Avatar, so you can see, sometimes we wonder, well, when is this stuff that we learn used in the real world? Well, it's not seen exactly like we see it in geometry class. This is the very most basic form, but they did use a lot of similarity when making the movie Avatar. So you can check out this link, and it's pretty cool, actually. All right, so let's go ahead and explore. You will need a protractor for this. And the first thing you want to do is identify and draw each of the triangles And so when we have overlapping triangles, remember I always like to outline them in two different colors. So the first triangle I see is this big one here, and this is EAC. And then I see the smaller one within here, and we'll call that BDC. When I measure these angles, I actually got this to be a right angle. So A and B were 90-degree angles, which means they're congruent. Check. And then I measured E and D, and I found that these were also congruent. They were 55 degrees. Okay. And since we have two angles, well, obviously C will also be congruent just because of the reflexive property. Okay, so since I know actually all three angles are equal, I know that this is going to be similar. I can't use it to prove they're congruent, but I can use the angles theorem to prove that they are congruent. And I'm not going to do a flow proof, I'm just going to leave it there. All right, we got a couple more theorems. We're going to learn three new rules today. And one of them is the side splitter theorem. So it looks very much like what we just looked at. What's cool is that if your triangle is split, then your side lengths are going to be proportional. Because as we just proved, as long as you know they're parallel, what we just proved is that if you cut a triangle, split a triangle, then the other two corresponding angles will also be congruent. But again, they do have to be parallel. That's the one. And this symbol right here means parallel. So what we can do is set up a proportion, and you'll see what you'll want to do is kind of think, if you start with the small triangle, and you want to put it over the large triangle, like they did here. They said CD, which is here, over DA, which is here, is equal to CE over EB. And so that's basically what we're doing. So we're going to say 8 over 10 is going to be equal to, and we're looking for SLS, so I'll call that X. That's on the small triangle over 15. And we learned earlier in this unit to find the missing side length. It's just going to be a matter of cross-multiplying and dividing. So 15, 8 times 15 equals 10x. 15 times 8, let's do it over here. It's 40, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 120. So x equals 12. All right, over here we have, we're going to do short side over long side. So 1 over 4, and I'm looking for BK, which is this side right here, so I'll call that x, is equal to 1 over x. Well, 4 equals 1x. So in this case, x is going to equal 4. All right, if I'm looking for BP, that's this side right here, so I'll call that x. So I'm going to say 6 over x equals 9 over 15. Again, you're going to cross multiply, so 15 times 6, that is 90. So 9x equals 90. So x equals 10. And this last one, you can go ahead and work it out on your own. I'm not going to give you the answer to it because I don't have a calculator on me right now. But it's going to be 3.25 over x, because this is the side we're looking for. equals 1.25 over. I set that up wrong, my bad. It should be, no, that's right. 1.25 over 5, that's right. And then you would cross multiply and divide. All right, so that's called the side splitter theorem. You're just going to set up a proportion and solve. This side is in one proportion, this side's the other. Let's say the smaller number over the larger number, so on and so forth. All right, down at the bottom, this problem right here is showing the next theorem that we're going to use. Let's see if you can try to figure out what x is in this case. There are multiple ways to approach this problem. So you want to work it out and then come back and see if you did it correct. All right, well, when I worked it out, I just basically used the side splitter theorem. And I said that 0.5 over 0.42 is going to equal, and I started with 0.5, so it's going to be 0.57 over x. And then again, you would just cross multiply. 0.5x equals 0.42 times 0.57. And again, I don't have my calculator on me, but you could work it out and figure out what the answer is there. The theorem that you used for this particular situation is called if three or more parallel lines intersect two transversals, then they divide the transversals proportionally. So you'll notice that each one of these light posts is parallel, okay? And so because those are parallel, you can just set up a proportion and solve. So they have this side here, AB over BC, is going to equal DE over EF. And that's basically how you set it up. So the information we're looking for over here is A to Q, and we don't know what that is. So I'm going to call that X. But I'm going to set up my proportion. It's going to be 32 over X equals 30 over 24. And then again, you'll use your calculator. You'll get 30x equals whatever 32 times 24 is. The key for this again is that you have to have parallel lines. Okay, so that's the second situation. So side splitter and the parallel lines is very similar because if I connected these transversal lines, I would actually make a triangle. So really it is just the side splitter theorem. You're just taking a snapshot before the point of the triangle has been created. Okay. All right, now this is the third. This is called the triangle bisector theorem. So again, when you see the word bisector, you should be thinking cuts in half. So that means that if you cut this angle here in half, then you can set up a proportion as well. And that would be this side over this side equals this side over this side. Okay, so let's see how this looks over here. I'm going to do 10 over 18 is going to equal 12. Since I started with 10, I have to start with 12 over x. And this would be just 10x equals 12 times 18. And again, you're going to work that out in your calculator to figure out what x is. You multiply 12 times 18 and then divide it by 10. Okay. And again, this one, I know that this is a bisector because they've labeled these angles congruent. So I know that's a bisector. So it's going to be 9.6 over 16. Really the hardest part is setting this up correctly. And since I started with 9.6, I'm going to start with y over 24. And again, you'll cross multiply. So you get 16y here So you don't get confused. 16y equals 9.6 times 24. Whatever that is, you can type it in your calculator and figure it out. All right, so those were the 3 theorems we learned. The first one, if you look here, this is going to be the side splitter. This is parallel lines. And this one is the one we just learned, which is the angle bisector. So go ahead and start working on your homework, and you can come back and check the answers when you're done. So you have these problems due on paper, and then your test is in a couple of days. So you're going to want to finish the packet and then complete your IXL. And these are the IXLs you want to do. If you want more practice, P1 through, I think it's P10, is a great place to practice. IXL. All right, so these are the answers that you should have gotten for the first 3 problems. Again, the first one was using side splitter, then parallel lines, and then the angle bisector theorem. And then here are the answers to the second half. Remember, one key piece of information is that if you have more than one term, if you have an expression, you have to put it in parentheses. And then, for example, if I wanted to multiply this out, this would be d times b plus c, which would then go to db plus dc, which is the distributive graph. And you notice that back here with number 1, this is an entire expression that you had to multiply that into. All right, so in preparation for your test in a couple of days, you definitely want to finish the packet. The module test will be on Thursday. And then, again, if you want extra practice, you could go through and do the IXLs P1 through P10. I'm looking forward to everyone doing really well on this test. If you want to get a head start on your review sheet, please see me and I can provide that for you.